Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're setting aside maybe the usual ideas about telepathy, the spiritual side, the fictional stuff,
Right.
and we're looking at a pretty radical scientific claim that telepathy isn't just possible, but is measurable, scientifically testable.
Yeah, and specifically within a particular community, a group of non-speaking
And
individuals.
so our mission today is to really unpack the sources on this, look at the evidence, starting way back historically, and then moving into some modern, pretty rigorous testing.
And see what it all might mean for, well, how we think about human consciousness communication itself.
Because the focus has really shifted, hasn't it?
Completely. I mean, when you look at the history, it used to be all about, proving or disproving this vague metaphysical idea. Is it real? Is it not?
Kind of hitting the wall there, I guess.
Exactly. But now, because of some really compelling modern case studies, the conversation in science, or at least parts of it, is more about how. How might it actually function?
Moving it towards biology, physics.
Biophysics, energy transfer, yeah. It's a different kind of question.
Okay, let's dig into that history first then. Because people have been trying to measure this stuff since, what, the 1880s?
Yep, earnest research started way back then. But it was really the early 20th century, with wireless communication coming online that shaped the whole approach.
The radio connection.
That's the key link. So 1901, Marconi pulls off sending wireless messages 3,000 miles across the Atlantic. No wires.
Which must have just blown people's minds at the time.
Absolutely. And that idea that a signal could just jump across space like that, no physical connection needed, it immediately got researchers thinking.
Could the brain be doing something similar?
Precisely. They started theorizing, well, maybe telepathy is just a natural kind of radio wave. Maybe the brain is engineered somehow to receive these signals.
And that wasn't just fringe thinking.
No, you had pretty high-profile people getting interested. Like the author Upton Sinclair, he wrote a whole book, Mental Radio, about experiments he did with his wife.
Wow. So the brain, as an antenna, suddenly it wasn't just sci-fi. It felt scientifically, well, plausible.
Plausible, exactly. Which leads to some really strange but relevant historical anecdotes.
Okay, like the Lucille Ball story. I've heard bits of this.
Yeah, it's pretty famous in these circles. During World War II, she was driving near Moore Park, I think it was, late at night, and she had temporary dental fillings, metal ones.
Okay.
Suddenly, she hears music, clear as day. But her car radio, it wasn't even on.
So the music was coming from where?
Through her teeth? Her dental fillings were acting like a basic crystal radio receiver.
Get out, really?
Yeah, apparently Buster Keaton explained it to her later, said she was driving right past the radio station, the signal was super strong, her metal fillings just picked it up.
That's wild.
But here's the kicker. A few nights later, she supposedly picked up Morse code, an underground Japanese station transmitting Morse code.
Through her fillings again.
That's the story. And it kind of proved the mechanism, right? That the skull, the mouth, whatever, under just the right weird conditions, could actually act as a receiver for external signals.
And not just music, but coded transmissions.
Wow. And it wasn't just her. There's another case documented by researchers. A guy admitted to a psychiatric ward because he was hearing voices.
Okay, sounds more typical, unfortunately.
Well, turns out he worked in a machine shop, and they found his metal fillings were coated in carborundum dust.
Carborundum? What's that?
It's a semiconductor. Basically, the dust in his fillings had accidentally created, again, a crude radio receiver in his mouth.
You're kidding? He was literally picking up radio broadcasts.
Yep. They cleaned the carborundum dust off his teeth, and the voices stopped completely.
So these aren't biological phenomena, but they show the head can receive external signals.
That's the crux of it. These stories suggest that, okay, maybe non-biological stuff like metal fillings or dust can accidentally turn your head into a receiver for man-made radio waves.
Right, which naturally leads to the next question.
Could the brain also pick up signals generated naturally by other brains?
Is there a biological equivalent of that radio wave?
And that question takes us right into the modern evidence, the central case study we need to unpack. It involves Houston and his mother, Katie, down in Atlanta.
Right, and for them and their community, telepathy isn't theory, it's described as a shared reality.
That's the term they use, yeah. A community of non-speaking individuals.
Okay, but we need the background here.
Yeah.
Katie's story is pretty intense.
Oh, absolutely essential context. She escaped an abusive marriage, raising 5 kids, and watching her son, Houston, diagnosed with severe non-speaking autism, basically slip away.
And the diagnosis she got was just devastating, wasn't it?
Brutal. They essentially called it a death sentence, said there was no hope, led her to believe his cognitive function was extremely low because he couldn't speak or control his body reliably.
Just heartbreaking isolation for both of them.
Totally. But then a breakthrough. Houston's 17, and one day he does something he never did. He sits still, looks right into her eyes, and he manages to actually vocalize, "Mama, I love you."
Wow. After years of silence.
That was the miracle, she says. That moment restored her hope, started this whole new journey.
And that led her to find new ways for him to communicate.
Exactly. She learned about something called the rapid prompting method, RPM.
Okay, explain that briefly for people who don't know.
Sure. It's basically an assisted communication technique. It uses a letter board, and the person points to letters to spell out words. It helps bypass the severe motor planning issues many non-speakers have.
So it's not about intelligence, it's about getting the message out past the body's interference.
Precisely. And it unlocked everything for Houston. Katie talks about the heartbreak, realizing he'd been, in her words, trapped for over 2 decades because she'd listened to the experts who confused motor issues with intellect.
And then he started communicating complex thoughts.
Yeah, at 21, he spelled out his first full sentence on the board. Just 3 words. "I'm in here."
Oh, man. Sends shivers down your spine.
Doesn't it? And the tragedy is, Houston, like so many others like him, was denied a real education.
Because people assumed he couldn't learn.
Right. They were stuck teaching him colors and shapes year after year, even in high school, all based on a misunderstanding of his physical challenges.
So how did he learn then, if he wasn't being taught complex subjects?
That's what blew Katie's mind. He revealed he had to teach himself to read. And not only that, he said his friends taught each other.
His non-speaking friends. How?
Well, that's the million-dollar question Katie asked him. How could they teach each other if none of them could speak easily? And Houston's answer was, they all have unique gifts. They communicate telepathically.
Okay, so that's the moment this moves from communication breakthrough to something else entirely.
That's the pivot point. And Katie, remember, comes from a pretty conservative background. Her first reaction,
Skepticism.
big time. She apparently told him, flat out, "I said bullshit."
Huh. Okay, fair enough reaction, maybe.
But Houston didn't miss a beat. He apparently proved it right then and there. By answering a really specific, complex question she had asked only in her own mind. Never spoke it aloud.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's quite a demonstration.
And the informal tests just started piling up after that. There's a story about him spelling out a private thought someone else was having. Another time, he accurately spelled out the content of a text message sent to Katie that he absolutely could not have seen.
And it wasn't just Katie witnessing this.
No, that's important. It was validated by others. Even his brother, who's a Marine, apparently very skeptical initially, he confirmed it, said he'd personally witnessed Houston reading the thoughts of his friends.
Okay, so Houston claims this isn't just him, but an ability shared by other non-speakers, maybe varying in strength.
That's his claim. All non-speakers have this ability, he says.
So if that's true, why isn't it just constant, overwhelming communication? What limits it?
Great question. And Houston actually explained that. He talked about the rule of interference.
Interference, like radio static.
Kind of, yeah. He says he can hear everyone's thoughts, which sounds overwhelming in itself. But high anxiety, either his own or someone else's, acts like static. It literally cuts off parts of their brain, is how he put it. Makes the signal noisy, hard to decipher.
So crowds, intense negative emotions, that would make it difficult.
Extremely difficult, he said. Too much interference, like trying to tune into a weak station in a storm.
That sounds like an incredibly stressful way to exist, honestly. Constantly bombarded.
It does, and maybe that explains something else Houston developed. This intense fascination, almost an obsession with rocks, stones, and crystals.
Ah, okay. Where does that fit in?
Well, it started when Katie brought home 3 stones someone had, prayed over. Houston was immediately drawn to them.
Why? What did he say about them?
When Katie asked, he spelled out something really interesting. He said, "When you're autistic, you're a magnet for all energy, good and bad. These stones have good energy." And he said he needed more good energy.
Okay, good energy sounds a bit esoteric.
Yeah.
How does that connect back to the science side of this deep dive?
Well, it might sound that way, but it actually connects directly back to measurable physics, which is key here.
How so?
Stones, crystals, they possess piezoelectric energy.
Piezoelectric,
Yeah.
like in watches or lighters.
Exactly. It means they can convert mechanical stress into electrical energy and vice versa. But more fundamentally, all elements, everything, has a measurable frequency of vibration measured in hertz.
Okay.
So it's possible Houston isn't experiencing something magical, but maybe he's perceiving a wider range of the electromagnetic spectrum than most people. Maybe he's literally sensing these frequencies.
And the stones somehow help with that.
Perhaps. Think of it less like a magic charm and more like maybe a crystal tuner in an old radio set, something that helps stabilize or clarify the signal he's receiving, filtering out the bad static energy he mentioned.
Interesting. So it provides a potential physical mechanism, not just a feeling.
It provides a testable hypothesis, which is crucial, and all this anecdotal evidence, the history, the physics potential, it set the stage for formal testing.
Right. Conducted by Dr. Diane Powell in Atlanta.
Yes. And they were apparently extremely careful about the setup, controlling the environment rigorously.
How so?
Well, for instance, they removed most of the film crew from the room during testing. Why? Because they were worried the crew's thoughts might interfere, might taint the tests.
Okay, that shows they were taking the interference idea seriously. What did the tests involve?
They started simple, or relatively simple, numbers, using a random number generator on a phone. Things like 2220 or 96.
And Houston had to identify them.
Yeah, using his letterboard. And the reports say he did it quickly and accurately, way above chance, often while looking away from the board or the phone.
Looking away, that's important. Rules out visual cues.
Absolutely critical. Then they moved to something slightly more complex, an Uno deck.
Okay, colors and numbers.
Right. And Houston apparently didn't just point to the number, like 6. He vocalized 6 and then spelled out the color BLUE, 6 blue.
Adding another layer of information transfer.
And he even got the non-number cards right, like identifying a +2 card correctly.
Wow. But numbers are still abstract. Did they test comprehension of more complex ideas?
They did. But first, there's another confirmation story from those tests involving one of the crew.
Oh.
A production assistant named Sam. He was apparently kind of bummed about being excluded from the room during testing.
Felt left out.
Yeah. So while outside, he decided to do his own little test. He went into the garage, focused intensely on a single word, thinking it over and over. Friend?
Just thinking it.
Just thinking it. Then he went back into the room where Houston and Katie were. And Houston almost immediately picked up his letterboard and spelled out FRIEND.
Whoa. Just like that. Sam hadn't said anything.
Nope. Purely thought-to-board communication, according to the account.
Okay, that's startling. So then they moved to more complex stuff.
Then they moved to books, testing actual conceptual transfer beyond just numbers or single words.
How did they control for him seeing the book?
They had a camera operator positioned specifically to confirm Houston couldn't see the page Katie was looking at. Total visual block.
Got it. So what happened?
Katie would silently read a single word from a book. Houston would spell it on his board. Then she read a whole sentence, silently, from an Old English Bible.
Old English.
Yeah.
That's a complex language.
But very. And Houston, reportedly, spelled the words out. Perfectly. On his letterboard.
Okay, the implications there are just huge. If that's repeatable, verifiable.
Staggering. But, you know, this ability, if real, it came with an absolutely devastating personal side for Houston and Katie.
How so?
Katie shared this horrifying realization she had. If Houston could hear thoughts, really hear them, he hadn't just heard her loving thoughts.
Oh no, he'd heard everything.
Everything. Her moments of anger, her frustration, her deep despair and hopelessness over the years, times she might have wanted to give up. He heard it all.
That's an almost unbearable burden for a child or anyone to carry.
Unbearable is the word. And it gets even darker, the most tragic part.
Oh,
Remember her abusive ex-husband. Houston, trapped in his non-speaking body, had apparently heard his father's sinister thoughts and crimes.
heard his thoughts about the abuse.
Yes. Including thoughts about crimes against another family member. Houston knew what was being planned, what was happening, on a thought level.
But he couldn't speak, couldn't warn anyone, couldn't stop it.
Exactly. A silent witness, trapped by his own body, aware of the horror, but physically unable to intervene or communicate the danger.
That reframes everything. His wanting to communicate wasn't just about connection. It was potentially about protection, about trying to be that hero he couldn't physically be.
You nailed it. He told his mother explicitly he always wanted to be a hero, but his body prevented him. The weight of that? It's immense.
Yeah, immense. It makes you think about connection in a whole new way.
And maybe that deep need for connection, for action, for community when you're physically isolated. Maybe that's why Houston introduced this final, really fascinating concept.
Which is?
He calls it the talk on the hill.
The talk on the hill. What does that mean?
He describes it as a space, not physical, where other non-speakers collaborate.
Collaborate how?
Telepathically. Think of it like
Yeah.
like a mental CB radio channel, he suggested. They all get on the same frequency, the same channel.
For what purpose?
Group conversations, sharing information, teaching each other things, even praying for each other, all done telepathically across distances, location, zip code, doesn't matter.
A collective consciousness network for non-speakers.
Yeah.
That's profound. Is there any validation for that beyond Houston's description?
Well, there's one striking piece of anecdotal evidence. A mother in Utah, someone Katie had never met, never spoken to.
Good.
She messaged Katie out of the blue. Why? Because her 9-year-old non-speaking son, using his letterboard, had just spelled out, "Houston is my best friend."
Whoa. A 9-year-old in Utah calling Houston in Atlanta his best friend, having never met.
Suggests some kind of connection, some kind of communication network operating outside the channels we currently understand.
It ties back to what Katie concluded from all this, doesn't it?
Hmm.
Her big philosophical insight.
Yeah, her idea that thoughts are things.
Explain that a bit.
Her point is, everything that exists physically, a chair, a building, a fork, this microphone, it had to exist first as a thought in someone's mind, an idea, a plan.
Because thoughts aren't just internal noise. They have energy, creative potential, substance.
That's the implication, that the energy of thought isn't confined to our skulls. It extends outwards. It acts. It's a genuine energy field, maybe measurable, maybe interacting, much like those radio waves we started with.
So wrapping this part of the dive up, we've gone from Marconi and weird dental fillings
Right, the historical suggestion that the body could receive external signals.
to looking at actual physics, like piezoelectric energy in stones, as a possible mechanism.
A potential way someone like Houston might be tuned into a wider spectrum of energy or frequency.
And culminating in these detailed accounts and formal tests from Atlanta. A whole community claiming telepathy isn't theoretical, it's just how they communicate.
A shared demonstrable reality for them, which science is now trying to measure and understand.
And we should mention, there's more data coming, right? The brain scans.
They did. Dr. Powell's team conducted QEEG hyperspanning. That's where they record the brain activity of two people simultaneously, in this case, Houston and Katie, while they're attempting this communication.
Looking for matching patterns, brain waves syncing up during transmission.
Exactly. Looking for neural correlates of this claimed telepathic connection. That data is still being analyzed, but it's something we'll definitely dive into in the future when it's available.
Okay, so for our listeners thinking about all this, Houston's desire to be a hero trapped in his body.
But potentially connecting with others on this talk on the Hill.
Right, if that's real, if this network exists, and non-speakers are sharing complex information, teaching each other, collaborating telepathically.
What kind of collective knowledge might they be building? What understanding are they developing that we're completely unaware of?
It really makes you question our own perceived limits, doesn't it? Our definition of connection, of consciousness.
Yeah.
Are we maybe missing a whole layer of communication because we assume thought just stays inside the head?
Are we only measuring the static and not the signal? It's a huge question to ponder.
Definitely something to think about until the next time we dive deep.